I'm just a person who really loves the local languages and the local cultures and everything. And as urban as my music is, I try to fuse it with those local languages. And I think if you've been keen, especially on the Kenyan Afropop scene, there's guys like Okello Max, Costa Ojuang, Erosh, Wanjine, guys who are just doing predominantly their local languages, and their music is moving. And people used to say the younger dudes would never love this kind of stuff, but the young guys love it. One of the biggest, or rather, let me say, one of the biggest songs to ever come from Kenya is Kina Gidi Gidi Majimaji, what's it called? And Boga Bol,
yeah.
Those songs, yeah. And they're in our native language. So just being comfortable in what we're doing and exporting our stuff should be something we really do going forward. I think we have an amazing culture, and it's just we just need to share it. No matter how come Kenya kutembea, culture zetu ni kali, lakini si for some reason tunataka kuziondokea.
Yeah.
That's the irony.
Yeah. Now, another thing about your music, Charisma, is that I noticed there's a fusion of so many different local languages. Of course, there's some English, there's Kiswahili, there's Luhya, Jaluo, Kikamba. There's just multiple languages being fused into your music. And this issue of language has come up before, whereby there was a time when people had a theory that the reason why Kenyan music is not selling is because we're doing it in a language that people are not understanding. But that did not make sense. But that's what but unajua Kenya, we have that asset of, you have people who know 4 or 5 languages, which is very rare in most parts of the world. I think a lot of people don't realize how rare this asset is. So talk to us about that. What advantage does it give you as an artist when you have that depth or being able to move between languages, or even collaborate with people who can do other languages creatively?
I think we're blessed, as you said, we're blessed to be in a country where there's so much in terms of the diversity in language and all those kinds of things. Like Kenya kuna so much to offer. And I think personally, I want to say, first of all, to the point that you made, that the problem is the language. One of Kenya's biggest international exports, even music from Kenya that has been used in movies in Hollywood, is Ayubogada. Ayubogada seems only in Luo.
Kothbiro
is man. Bro, Mikmila alisampoliwa ngoma manani.
Hiyo kitu imesampoliwa na watu wengi. Me, I don't understand. I never understood what that song said, but ilikuwa inanifanya nilie. You don't even understand. You don't even know what you're crying about. Yeah.
That string instrument.
Yeah. So just on that point. And then now I think I'm just a person who really loves the local languages and the local cultures and everything. And as urban as my music is, I try to fuse it with those local languages. And I think if you've been keen, especially on the Kenyan Afropop scene, there's guys like Okello Max, Costa Ojuang, Erosh, Wanjine, guys who are just doing predominantly their local languages, and their music is moving. And people used to say the younger dudes would never love this kind of stuff, but the young guys love it. The young guys love it. And I know a lot of young guys right now are like, man, I wish I knew my language more. I wish I could speak my language more. And it's just a way of exporting our culture and showing. Bro, when I jump in the other vitu watuelewi, mi sielewangi kitu, mi sijui kitu yote nye kina Burna Boy husema for the most part.
I know, yeah.
You know, but hiyo mziki ni tamu.
Hata huyo flavor huyo.
Kwanza flavor.
Yes, he sings in his dialect, whatever his dialect is. Yeah.
Yeah. So this, I think it's just also for us Kenyans to share our culture, to show our culture and show the diversity in our country. Because we, as you said, us guys are the ambassadors of that. You know, hakuna mse mwingine atuonyesha say the diversity that's in the Kenyan industry apart from the Kenyan people. So I think for me it's just I love what we have here, and any chance to showcase it, I do.
Okay.
Talking about cross culture. You remember the song? It was Samido and these other artists. Not Okello Max. They just chomoa the song. DJ.
Yeah, the
Samido and one was
Prince
singing
Inda.
the Luo.
Prince
and Prince Inda.
Yeah.
Janabi.
Yeah.
Collabos like that, and people are loving that, and it's like the young people who are consuming, taking it in, and appreciating.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like when it comes to the local languages, personally, I've been a strong advocate that these things should be actually added into the education system. And I know it's very controversial, but this should be added into the curriculum because we might end up losing these languages with all this urbanization. And the fact that, like I've seen a pattern, and I'm going to get attacked for this. I've seen a pattern where, like, you have some parents, especially, like wale wameishi Ocha, and I think it's because of that stigma of maybe the way they spoke English, they don't want to speak to their kids in mother tongue or in any other language. Now, when you come to diaspora, it's another layer. So there's some parents who only speaking to their kids in English, and maybe, okay, those ones are okay, they'll be living here. But nowadays, ukienda Nairobi, kuna watoto hata, like wasemeshwi hata Kiswahili nyumbani, which is very worrying to me.
Yeah. You bring up an interesting point, I think, because my mom growing up, so I used to ask my mom, why is it that a lot of, especially Luhyas, I speak for us guys, like we don't know our language, And my mom was telling me the same thing you're saying, which is really interesting. Like for a lot of them, they were told how kuongea hivyo ni ushamba na nini. So they grew up knowing kutoka kwa block ni watu wako wajue Kizungu, Queen's English, wakuwe very well educated, but wako na hiyo ni kuwa fluent kwa English. But I get, even though walikuwa wanashoiwa. So you find that, bro, wacha nikwambie, unaona shads penye natoka deep mashinani, watu ya wajui Kiluhya, unasema Nairobi.
That is very true.
Yeah, no, I think that's...
watu ya wajui Kiluhya, like how...
That is very true. Like, you see, when we go to Shago, and then we usually carry like our friends from different tribes. And the one thing they usually tell us, like, mazee huku Shago kwetu, kila mtu anajua Kiswahili na Kizungu. Like, basically, for me, somebody like me, I learned to speak Luhya when I was in high school because I went to Kakamega High School. If I hadn't gone to Kakamega High School, singejua Kiluhya. Na pia siati Kiluhya yangu ni poa vile. Unaona? My daughter,
But now, this is where I think there needs to be an intervention. Unaona kama, like, a lot of people don't know, there was an intervention done in 1981. Moyo na ubaya wake wote, a lot of people don't know that Kiswahili was never a compulsory subject.
Correct.
A lot of people do not know that. Yeah, because maybe kina madha walipoenda skuli,
it wasn't offered.
Yeah, like back in the 70s, it wasn't. It was offered, but it was an optional language.
It was not compulsory.
So I have someone like my uncle who did Kiswahili in high school, but kina, like kina, a lot of people did not do so. In 1981, I'm up early 80s when 844 was being introduced. That's when, like it was made a compulsory subject to some controversy, but ikakubalika. I mean, of course, Kiswahili bado hatuko pali tunatakana, but at least it's in the public schooling system. At least anyone who goes through the public schooling system, at the bare minimum, hata kama asemeshi Kiswahili nyumbani ataelewa. So I thought with CBC, there was gonna be some creativity, because I think problem na language zikiingia, watu wanaanza kusema ukabila na nini, but I think there needs to be some creativity on how they can be integrated into the schooling system and even studied all the way up to university to research level, where people can go research in these different languages. And then you see, because sometimes watu wanauliza, kwa nini tunalani language? Think about it. Kiswahili has given people jobs in media, in so many different spaces. Unaona, a lot of this vernacular media, it is so popular, but then, like when you have a whole supply
within
of
a
kids
small
growing up
market.
within a small market. But when you have a whole supply of kids who are coming up that are not fluent in that language, it's gonna become more scarce to get people who can run those programs. So I think, to me, that's something that as a country, sometimes wanashanga Ministry of Culture ni kitu gani wa wanafanya, because these are the things that we need to be looking at. These are treasures that if we lose, we are gonna regret big time.
I've always been of the opinion, and I think I've shared this. It's good to have French Cultural Center, the Goethe Institute.
Yeah.
Ni sawa.
Ni sawa.
But what would be nice also would probably to have, you go to Kisumu, Luo Nyanza, you have a Luo Cultural Center. You go there, kuna vitabu, you learn history.
Subas,
We have a
Subas
we have
have
a
one.
Suba. We have
Yeah,
a Suba
okay.
culture
I know the
center.
Subas have
it
one.
needs,
But
it needs to be there.
Yeah.
But it's something such that you can learn. You can, because if it's not going to be integrated that way, like in let's say in the curriculum, but you set up, like when local tourism is promoted. Normally when we go, like when people go to, you go to a museum, you go to a cultural center, whatever, you learn, maybe 1 or 2 words, 3 or whatever. You get intrigued
Correct,
by
yes.
the history of these people, how they came to be, who was their leader, whatever, their way of life or whatever. So when you go to where Luhyas are, you learn about the Luhyas. You go to the Maasai, you go to the Pokots, you go to the Kalenjins or whatever. You get to appreciate that from that perspective and from that angle.
Absolutely.
Would it be nice to have cultural centers? Absolutely. I think that would be better. If you have for
But
French,
then for me,
let's Waluya ama
No,
Kikuyu
no.
ama whatever.
for me, what I think is just that let's just talk this. Let's speak these languages at home. Let's speak to our children. The first place where kids learn is at home.
Absolutely.
Correct.
When somebody is born, there is no specific language that is wired in their brain.
No.
They learn.
They learn.
They learn everything. They learn everything. That is why if right now you went and gave birth to a kid in India, they will speak pure Gujarati ama Urdu, wherever you are, whichever language, they will speak it purely because that is what they'll be spoken to, and they learn that. That. So if we don't speak to our kids in our languages, and then how do you expect them to know them? Do you expect them to use Rosetta Stone to start learning their languages? Now, the cultural part is good, as Uno said. The cultural part has to be there. But then with the cultural part also, as you put it there, when you're getting modernized, most people tend to want to shun tradition and drop everything for tradition. I like this thing about the Kikuyu. Vitu kama rurashio, ngorario, nini. Those are things that they still keep and practice them, and they hold on to them dearly. They don't let them go. Culture like that is what's supposed to be put in. And then it comes back to where Kina Fidel come in, where culture in art is supposed to be preserved. So culture in art, I mean, like, when you go to those rural shows, those 2 songs, those 2 women sing, those 2 shows, the clothes that they wear, those clothes that they wear, like the shields, the spears, everything that is done in tradition has to be preserved and done. And then now this is where you come in and merge it in with the modernization of art, and try to continue that education to it. Because for me, I just don't. If we just say we leave it to just the government to build cultural centers, we are going to lose it. Kwanza government ya Kenya.
But
na government ya Kenya, by the way, unajua hao sasa hivi wamekuwa ni government ya TikTok.
Ndio government ya Kenya tayari ina feel na critical sectors kama healthcare, alafu mnataka watengeneze cultural center.
There's that aspect. But I agree with Mika. Kikuyu say, Gemishu magana moshie. Charity begins at home.
Absolutely.
So from our kids, we can build. We can build from that.
But I also think we're the first generation who are realizing, because I think our parents' generation, they went through the trauma of colonialism.
Yes.
So we have to forgive them. We have to forgive them because there was so many different kinds of trauma they went through, and then this thing of kuambiwa we ni mshamba na nini. But I think we are the first generation who are like, hold up, no, there's something wrong. We need to, we need to, and we are the lucky ones where we still have grandparents who are still very in touch with the culture and understand these things. So we are the bridge that will either hold it or completely collapse
it. Yes,
because and I want to shout out. There's so one thing I always say. I really respect Kikuyus and Luos for this thing. I don't know, for some reason, haujua lugha zao, even the younger guys. So I was telling someone, it's so weird how even in this urban pop industry, it's only Kikuyus and Luos in the pop scene, yeah. And the reason is there's a place I used to stay on Kiambu Road, yeah. There's this lady, her kids go to like one of the most expensive schools in that area, yeah. However, wakiwa home, they're spoken to in only Kikuyu. And every day I used to, when they go up the apartments, I hear them talking Kikuyu to the kids. And I'm like, what the hell? Kila siku. But nika realize, even though they're already being taught English, Swahili, whatever in school. But where are they going to learn their Kikuyu? So what you guys are saying is real. And what Mika is saying also with the fusion of art and now culture. So I always say, listen, Kenyans, we want Kenyan music to be played more and everything. Want to play KA, but I really respect Nigerians for one thing. They've pushed their cultures. I've never been to Nigeria, but I know what Nigerian dressing looks like, traditional dressing looks like. I know what their ceremonies are like because I see them in music videos. I see them in those
in their movies.
Afro cinemas.
Correct.
You see them everywhere. Like they export their culture for real, and they're so proud of their culture. And even the pidgin. You know how back in I don't know. I feel like. One of the biggest, or rather, let me say, one of the biggest songs to ever come from Kenya is Kina Gidi Gidi Majimaji, what's it called? And Boga
Ball, yeah.
Those songs, yeah. And they're in our native language. So just being comfortable in what we're doing and exporting our stuff should be something we really do going forward. I think we have an amazing culture, and we just need to share it. No matter how come Kenya kutembea, culture zetu ni kali, lakini si for some reason tunataka kuziondokea.
Yeah.
That's the irony.
Yeah.